Hey, it's Jimmy P. Brown II coming at you from Las Vegas, Nevada. This is actually my home and where I'm doing the bulk, if not all of my recordings that are released for streaming on iTunes, Spotify, etc. And of course, you know me from the band Deliverance and as well as my solo projects, Jupiter 6, Fearful Symmetry, and now just Jimmy P. Brown II. So I am doing a gear review, and the first on the list is going to be the ISOVOX 2 vocal booth. Now, as you see behind me, it looks small, especially for a big guy, and I'm a big guy. I'm 6'1". I tend to get claustrophobic in small spaces, and so you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, wow, this is strange. So it's like this, dome of silence, or the cone of silence, like on the original Get Smart series. For those of you old enough to remember that, but people ask, well, how does it sound? And of course, before I even entertained getting one, I used vocal shields. I used, everything from the cheapo ones that cost $39 over at Guitar Center all the way to the more expensive ones, well, I won't even mention the companies because they make other good products, but those vocal shields that just, cover half the back, there's really not a lot to them, and they take care of some of the reflection. But if you've got a very live room, and most people that are doing home recordings, they can't treat their room unless they have one dedicated room that, that's what it's dedicated to. They can't completely and totally just isolate everything and pad the room. And if they can't, you're going to deal with reflections all over the place. So while those vocal shields that you use in the back take care of the rear, they don't really take care of what's happening in front. If you have a good vocal mic, any powerful condenser mic is going to pick up just everything and anything from the neighbors upstairs to, the kids screaming in the background 2 rooms away. It doesn't matter. That's the trouble with it. So, one of the worries that I had about the ISOVOX was, is it going to create a boxy sound? But let me put your fears to rest. Definitely does not give a boxy sound. I read in reviews, there's a lot of purists out there, and there's just a lot of snobs, but it really realistically does a fantastic job. And if you got a good mic and a good mic pre, you don't have to do a lot of EQing. And and it depends on how loud you sing and everything. And that's another thing. So I'm in an apartment, so I have to deal with, I've got neighbors that I need to be mindful of, and I tend to sing loud. So, and that's some of the questions that have come in. It's like, how in the world do you live in an apartment and you sing so loud? Your neighbors must hate you. And yeah, for a while they did, until I'm telling you, it really, really made a humongous difference. When I first got it, I wasn't too impressed because, I was in the same room. I had, friends try it out, my wife, and I'm listening, and I'm like, I hear everything. It's like cut down maybe like 2 dB, big deal. But then going out into another room is where you hear the difference. You can't hear anything. I have a friend who has a very boomy voice, and he came over, and I had him do the test. I, went out to the next room, went and sat in the living room, went into my son's room, went went into the bathroom, and literally, it just, from this big boomy voice, closed the trap, boom, and him in there, I couldn't hear a thing. So then I tried it, and I did, loud, boisterous vocals, and yeah, he was like, man, he goes, I could hear you, but like, it was almost like you were watching TV or something in the next room. He goes, it wasn't like, and I did the same. I had my wife test it with me. I had my daughter, who's a musician, test it with me, and they were just like blown away. Couldn't believe how much it actually did silence, and helped resolve, so that way I can do vocals full throttle, without inhibition, and not bother my neighbors. That's a big plus. So let's get inside the booth and see how it sounds in there, because I'm obviously in a live room. So let's see what it sounds like in there. All right, so obviously I'm in the ISOVOX now. I usually put it right where there's a little bit of clearance in my shoulders, because if it sits right on my shoulders, I tend to get a little claustrophobic. But you can hear it's deadened everything, but you can hear a slight reflection. And the slight reflection that's happening, in fact, as I start to turn away, you could start hearing my voice change, and then it gets a little deader. So what it is I have the flap open. So when you drop the flap, you drop the phone. Okay, so now you can hear, wow, it really has tightened up. Now it's got this tighter feeling. And when you're in here with headphones, and you're doing your thing, and as long as you're in the zone, it really really helps you. So, but I mean, I can really project more. And I don't find myself like all over the place. And there's room here on the shelf for not only my phone but my iPad, which has my controller on it for my DAW. So I'm able to control Pro Tools from inside of here rather than having to poke my head in and out, in and out, in and out. And a lot of times over the years, I've tended to like doing vocals sitting down. So I've tried it in both. I've tried it in standing mode, I've tried it in sitting mode, and it works fantastic in both environments. So, but again, since you're singing straight forward and you're singing right into these huge layers of foam, as I'm putting up pictures right now so you can see, they've all been acoustically engineered, and they do their job, and they truly, truly do their job. Not just, I think it goes light years beyond Auralex and some of the other studio foams. I think they did a fantastic job, not only being able to engineer such a thing, but to catch the voice. And so, you get those, now see, I would normally, like when I didn't have the ISOVOX, I'd be like, "We can be heroes," and I would always feel, and because it was loud, and the neighbors start pounding on the ceiling, on their floor and my ceiling. So, but when I drop that flat, man, and I'm singing directly here, I'm able to get all those highs in, and have more control, emotional feeling. We can be heroes just one day. And it's nice, dead. You can't hear anything out there. Now, if you're in the same room, and that's the thing that's really deceptive, you're in the same room, you're going to go, it's not working. I can hear everything. I can hear the spill from the shoulders. I can hear the spill from, the little cracks underneath. None of that matters. It's where the voice is projecting. And that's when your voice is going forward and you're here doing your track and you're singing, boom. It just like, man, it really, really makes a difference. It's a huge thing. So, I think they did a bang up job on what they were doing, and it produces quality recordings. And we'll get into that in a second, but because I'm going to get out of the box for a second, and we'll finish up this review. All right. So end result, end summary on this. The retail street price on these is quite expensive. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. It's $999. So you're looking at $1,000 to invest in one of these. Now, I've been asked by other musicians that know I use it, is it worth it? And I would have to absolutely conclude yes, 100%. It's worth every penny. to be able to produce quality recordings in an apartment type setting and a home studio type of setting. And I've actually recorded in, $500 a day, $1,000 a day, lockout professional studios that actually couldn't produce good dead dry vocals. The new vocal style in a recording especially is as dry as possible. So that way compressors react a lot better with the voice, with the track. Also, you're going to notice your reverbs, your delays, your coursing, your doubling. All those will have a little more sparkle, and in some cases, a lot more sparkle. And why? Well, it's because you've got just a nice isolated dead track to work with. Because as you know, with a compressor, what does a compressor do? It raises the noise floor. So any of that spill, any of that live room snap, it's going to pick up and raise it up as well as doing its thing as a compressor or limiter. Reverbs, delays, courses, it all, again, everything has their own reaction to the actual track. So, the lower the noise floor, the better. It's not like, in the early days of tape where, you had to raise it as high as possible, and get into the red, as much as possible without distorting. And why? Because we didn't want all the tape hiss noise. Well, we don't have to deal with tape hiss now. We just have to deal with elements. And most people are doing home recordings. So is it worth that? Now, and say, okay, in fact, I had one friend saying, man, it's just $1,000 to shell out, Well, hey, I understand. And trust me, as a full-time musician, I definitely know the woes of it, and it's difficult. But thankfully, there's some great music stores that can help you out, let you make monthly payments on it, stuff like that. And I won't mention them by name, but there's plenty of them, and they sell the ISOVOX. So if you can't just buy one outright, or you can't find one used, that would be a good way to go. Because again, it's worth it just to produce quality recordings. And more than anything, as a vocalist, and you got to warm up. And sometimes it takes an hour or two to really, really get going, especially on some of those high notes that you want to reach. And when you're in a situation like myself, in an apartment, you don't want to disturb the neighbors. And, it really comes in handy because you can get in there, throw your headphones on, throw your track on, and just rehearse. And, I like one of the things I remember hearing from the Buddy Holly story, the movie. It's like he says, we keep it real simple. And, we just play the songs over and over and over till it feels good, and then we hit the record button. And it's like, that's exactly the way it is. So, sometimes I'll just get in here just to rehearse on my daily rehearsal to get my voice up, get my diaphragm working, have a head voice, throat voice, and then just, oh my gosh, that just feels good. And I hit the record button and capture some great tracks. So there it is. That's my review of the ISOVOX 2. I hope you enjoyed it. Worth every penny. It's a fantastic tool for the home studio musician. But like I said, I've recorded in great studios with $500,000 consoles and just racks and racks of outboard gear, and their vocal booth sucked and got a lot of noise and got a lot of reflections and unpleasant artifacts on the vocal tracks, and had to work around them. Because anybody that knows me knows I'm a fan of the Lennon thing. I like 2 compressors, sometimes 3 on my vocal track. Just it creates a tone. It's a tonality thing, it's a sound thing, and it's a vibe. But man, if you got a lot of reflection noise and you got all that, it's a lot to deal with. And then you start hearing the weird clips and pumping sounds. And since I've been using this, I don't have that. So that's a big plus. So even for people that have a recording studio and say your vocal booth just isn't all the way there. I worked in a recording studio not too long ago for a few years. And we treated that vocal booth as much as we could, and just still gave off terrible reflections. And, you know, we had professional stuff hanging on the walls. We had it, you know, completely treated, but it just wasn't dead enough. It wasn't solid. So, you know, even for the pro studio to have one, I could totally see a pro studio at least having one available for when they want that upfront dead dry sound. Man, this thing can do it, and it's powerful and it's great. And more importantly, if you're a singer, super important to keep your chops up. Keep practicing, because you know, if you don't use it, you lose it, and that's the truth. The ISOVOX 2, is this thing worth it? Yes, it is. It's very cool. Again, the only complaint that I would have is if you've got a big mic, like I've got the Blueberry, which is, you know, it's probably my favorite vocal mic right now. Has been for the last 7-8 years. I just love them. I think they sound fantastic. Otherwise, I was a 414 guy for many moons. It just stands really tall. So, and it's a cardioid pattern. So, you know, you have to be in front of it, or, you know, I have to do a tilt. In fact, you'll notice on the pictures during the review, when I unzip the side, boom, you know, yeah, I have it at a tilt just so it captures my voice. That's probably my only, and you can't not use the shock mount, even though it does have the screw mount in the microphone to just go straight onto the pole. It just doesn't work, and their little clip doesn't work with this because it's kind of made to hold smaller basses, and this has the awkward bass. The other thing is, and you'll see the picture that I put up, you know, this thing you put this together in a matter of minutes, and it says you need 2 people to do it. Okay, 2 people would be handy, but I mean, I did it in 5 minutes, not even that. Well made, well articulated, and like I said, more than anything, it's all about sound. It's all about recording. You just want your recording to be the best it can be. Get yourself an ISOVOX 2. It's definitely worth the investment. Pick yourself up an ISOVOX 2. Way worth it. Jimmy P. Brown II, Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll see you soon. Hearken to ideas of the universe. Be one, the filters off.